Mitch is such a tragic example. Mitch killed himself when he was in his mid-20s. He was one of those we couldn't reach, we couldn't help. His sufferings obviously became too much, and he wanted to die rather than live the kind of life that he has shown us in his drawings and paintings and sculptures. They are frighteningly vivid portrayals of what it must have been like to have been Mitch.
When he was about 16, Mitch lived in the house here with us, and living became impossible every day. It was the inability for him to follow through with anything on a daily basis, and every experience was a new one. The garbage. It caused such a riot in this house. He couldn't remember from one day to another to take out the garbage. He never went to school. He slept all day. When he did go to school to write an exam, he got a 95. And the psychiatrist would say, "So what do you care? He went to school, got a 95. Isn't that what counts?" And a schizophrenic, at least as severely ill as Mitch, was very much self-absorbed. Very, very much self-absorbed. I mean, if he got a friend that would accept him, he would call that friend 25 times a day, all the way up until 3 o'clock in the morning, until the friend would finally have to say to him, "Hey, Mitch, this is too much. This is too heavy. You're coming on too intense." And then he would suffer this incredible rejection and really not understand what was so inappropriate. If you've got a friend, you've got a friend. He lived with such ambivalence that it just must have been such a hurt in his head all the time. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. That's what was going on inside of him all the time. I'll never forget a doctor saying to me, "Judy, you cannot deal with this illness with rational thinking. Don't even try, put it away. Don't even discuss it. It is not a rational illness." Jesus, God, Satan, there wasn't a thing that he didn't try. Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, every Far Eastern culture and religion that there was, he sought for an answer, and there was no answer from what was in his head. You could not escape from schizophrenia, excepting for death. That was his only way out. He was, torture, hell with what went on in his head. And especially at the end, the voices, he seemed to not be able to hide it, and he had covered it so well all these years. And he would never admit that he heard voices or had delusions. But at the end, he was actually communicating with them on the telephone, and he was talking to me, and he couldn't cover it anymore. He said to me, "Mom, do you know?" And I said, "Yes, Mitch, I know you're not the Messiah." "You don't know I'm not the Messiah." "Maybe I am the Messiah." "Do you know I'm not the Messiah?" And you could hear him communicating with somebody else and then throwing it back at me. And I just always wondered, what are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to do? You can't say, "Don't be ridiculous, you're not the Messiah." You have to have an understanding. If you've lived through this, you know what the pain is for him, because he's struggling with, is he or isn't he? He got himself to look like it. He had the beard and the long hair, and I mean, he actually just about moved into that whole image of himself. I can honestly say that I just feel I turned this world upside down and shook it for him. There wasn't a doctor I didn't speak to, a hospital I didn't go to look at, a new, innovative, non-conservative method that I didn't research to see if it was too crazy to even consider using. There wasn't a thing that I, as a parent, didn't do. And I feel that there was just no stone I left unturned. A long time ago, a lot of doctors who saw Mitch started preparing our family that someday he may not be here anymore, because his drive for suicide was one of the most incredible that they had ever seen. And they didn't know if all the hospitalization and the locked up wards would ever really prevent that inertia, because when he was psychotic and that need overcame him, it was so strong that he many times couldn't fight it, and they couldn't keep him locked up forever. And so they really felt that someday he may be able to successfully take his life. When I say successfully, I mean that the other times I mean, one time he jumped off a bridge, and he was in the hospital for almost a year. His pelvis was flipped open. He demolished his legs. He wiped out his elbow. He so many physical injuries that he had endured. He was 6 months in a body cast. Go put a psychotic person in a body cast for 6 months. I mean, that was devastating for him. And there's no way to fix it. No way to fix the thinking. There's no repair job that you can do. And doctors and people who know so much more than lay people, they can't fix it either. And that's the frustration, the minimal amount that's known about the illness, to be able to make it better. You can't. And as a mummy, you can't even kiss it, make it better. You can't do anything except be there and have an unconditional relationship, because he knew that no matter what, he was loved. That was it. He was loved.